Hello, this is a watercolor tutorial by Ekaterina Smirnova. We are painting mountains at dawn. I will be following my little sketch. I chose watercolor paper, rough, French Ultramarine, permanent rose, Sienna, and Paynes Grey are my watercolors. I will use two sizes of brushes, both of them are bristle brushes, and I will pick my first wider and larger brush, and using this brush I will apply generously water on the paper, making sure that it is moist throughout. Once I'm done, I will mix rose and rose sienna in order to make a gradation to create the atmosphere of the early morning. I like to test my colors on an additional piece of paper before starting to paint. So while the paper is moist, I'm going to create a gradation of this orangey mix. Starting from the bottom, I'm moving my brush up. By the time that my brush reaches the top, the color has almost disappeared. Once I'm satisfied with this fine gradation, I'm going to clean my brush very well and work on the top part, the sky, using French Ultramarine. If you don't have a French Ultramarine, use any ultramarine or cerulean blue. I made a very light mix diluted with water, and I will test the colors again. And while the paper is still moist, from the top moving down, I will apply my ultramarine color. Using a kitchen paper towel, I'm removing the excess of moisture from the base of my brush. This helps me to remove the border in between the blue color and the orange color. This is a little trick, but it is very effective. Once you're done, use a hairdryer or naturally dry your paper throughout. It's time to start working on the mountains that will take place in the center of the painting. I'm going to measure the space under the blue just where the orange starts, and using a light mixture of blue and water, we'll start to shape the mountains. First, I'll make an outline of the mountains. Then I will collect water on the brush and smooth out the border of the mountain in order to spread the color all around. I need to make sure that there is no visible border on the bottom. Once I'm done, I will collect a darker blue color and add it to the very tips of the mountains. Using this technique, I'm creating an effect that the lower parts of the mountains are submerged in the morning fog. Once again, I'm removing the excess of the water from my pointy small brush and smoothing out the lower part to create a gradation. Once I'm done, I'm using a hairdryer again to speed up my process. I need to make sure that the paper is fully dry. The second layer of the mountains are going to be painted using the same technique. First, I'll create the outline, then smooth out the lower part and add the brighter blue color, and use a hairdryer to dry out. Each next layer of the mountains need to be created the same way. On this layer of the mountains, I will mix in a little bit of Paynes Grey to make the blue color a little bit more darker because these mountains are closer to us. So on the very top parts of the mountains, I'm adding this intense color, smoothing out the bottom part and using a hairdryer to dry the paper. Once the paper is dry, we're moving on the final further layer of the mountains. And this time, as a base, I'm using a mixture of the blue and Paynes Grey and adding a more intense color, much darker color for the very tips of the mountains. I'm using a tip of my brush in order to make some of the shapes of the trees visible. Once again, I'm drying this layer. I'm using the same mixture of blue and Paynes Grey to create another closer layer of the mountains. This time, trees are much larger. After I'm done, I'm going to dry it once again. For the very final layer of the mountains, I'm taking the very intense color of Paynes Grey. This is the darkest and almost silhouetted layer. I would also like to paint a group of morning birds. First, I'll try the shapes on an additional paper, and once I'm ready, I'll move on my painting. This artwork is done. I hope you enjoyed painting it. And I would like to also recommend you to watch another tutorial called Blue Ridge Mountains on a similar subject.